In 2022, Turkish President Erdogan announced a campaign to rebrand the country. From now on, the whole world must call it Türkiye, not Turkey. The reason is simple and simultaneously absurd. In English, the word Turkey means Turkey. The Turkish state broadcaster TRT has highlighted this unfortunate coincidence for years. When searching for the word Turkey on Google, images of turkeys often appear instead of beautiful views of the country. However, behind this seemingly humorous story lies a much deeper question. Who are the Turks, really? Descendants of steppe nomads or heirs of the ancient civilizations of Anatolia. Today, 85 million people identify themselves as Turks. But what does their DNA say about it? Often, the name of a people holds the key to its cultural identity. The word Turk appeared in the 6th century when Prince Buman of the Ashina clan united the tribes in Altai and founded a khanate. But what does this ethnonym mean? Danish Turkologist Wilhelm Thomsen suggested that the term originated from Taruk, meaning strong, durable. Vasily Bartold disputed this version, linking the word to the concept of turu, legitimacy. Hungarian scholar András Róna-Tász proposed an Iranian hypothesis. Tur means helmet, lid. There is even a Tibetan version. Durgyu, origin. The Turkic Khanate was founded in 552, but it fell apart half a century later. This is why in our history we refer to Turks when talking about ancient nomadic peoples of Eurasia and Turks when telling the story of the people of modern Turkey. After all, modern Turks are just one branch of the vast Turkic tree that grew from the Altai steppes. And if the roots of this people go much deeper, to eras when neither writing nor the very word Turk existed? According to an ancient legend, the Turks descended from a boy rescued by a she-wolf named Asina. She nursed him in a cave, and from their descendants came the Ashina clan, the one that created the first Turkic Khanate. Above them shone Tengri, the god of the eternal blue sky, granting power and fate. But archaeology and genetics tell a different story. Studies have shown that the ancestors of the Turks came from mixed steppe populations of Central Eurasia, where nomadic and sedentary Bronze Age cultures intertwined over millennia. Scientists connected the emergence of their beliefs with older Near Eastern cults, from which Tengri inherited features of the sky and sun god, while the she-wolf Asina represented the ancient image of a protective mother, known in Anatolian cults. The legend turned out to be not a beginning, but a symbol of memory in which ancient peoples and forgotten gods merged. But if even the myths of the Turks came from other civilizations, who were those who created their real history? Long before the horsemen from Altai set foot on Anatolian soil, a civilization already existed here. Haplogroup G2 preserves the trace of its ancient inhabitants. 8,500 years ago, in the Neolithic era, farmers in Anatolia cultivated fields with stone tools and built houses from clay. Archaeologists have found two great monuments, Çatalhöyük, a city 9,000 years old, and Göbekli Tepe, a sanctuary older than the pyramids. Studies have shown that up to 90% of the genes of modern Anatolians are inherited from these people. They were not newcomers, but local hunters, among the first in Western Asia to master farming. But who destroyed their cities and erased the names of their gods from the face of the earth? Around 4,000 years ago, the first Bronze Age empire, the Hittite kingdom, arose in the heart of Anatolia. Their ancestors, the Proto-Anatolians, came not from the east but from the Balkans, bringing with them metal and language, which became the basis for future Indo-European dialects. Haplogroup J2, the genetic marker of the conquerors, is still found in 23% of the residents of central Anatolia today. Studies have shown that the Hittites indeed had between 10 and 20% steppe blood, but the foundation of their genome remained local. Descendants of Neolithic farmers with G2 and J2 lines. They opposed Egypt, fought at Kadesh, and were the first in history to conclude a peace treaty in 1259 BC. The Luwians, their western neighbors, were related to the Minoans and Mycenaeans, sharing culture and the sea with them. By 1200 BC, the empire collapsed, leaving the ruins of Hattusa, cuneiform tablets, and the shadow of chariots on the horizon. The Hittites disappeared, but their blood remained. Where is it now? Scientists still cannot explain why European blood beats in the heart of Asia. Haplogroup R1b, the line of Celts, Basques, and the inhabitants of Western Europe, is found in 14.9% of Turkish men. This marker penetrated Anatolia about 5,000 years ago with a wave of Indo-European horsemen coming from the steppes of the Black Sea region. They brought language, metal, and new culture, becoming part of the ancestral substrate of the Hittites. Alongside them was haplogroup R1a, the line of Scythians and Cimmerians, constituting 12.1% of the male population. This flow, covering the period from 3,000 to 2,000 years BC, left behind steppe mounds, bones of horsemen, and swords rusted by time. Modern genetics claims that 25% of Turkish men carry Indo-European heritage R1, blood that connects East and West. But if 25% of Turks are of European descent, then who were the remaining 75%? In legends, the Turks are the descendants of Altai, who came from the East and conquered everything with the sword. But genetics tells a different story. Only 10 to 15% of Turkish DNA is connected to Central Asia. The rest are ancient Anatolian and Near Eastern roots. Haplogroup Q, the main Oghuz Turkic line, is found in about 2% of Turks, whereas among Turkmen it is from 30 to 70%. Line N, related to Siberian and Finno-Ugric peoples, is encountered in 4 to 10% of cases. After the Battle of Manzikert in 2071, no more than 500,000 Turks settled in Anatolia, dissolving among millions of local inhabitants. Archaeogenetics of the Karakhanids and Kipchaks shows that they had from 38.9% to 49.4% East Asian origin, while among modern Turks, it is no more than 15%. DNA has proven that the official version is a myth. The horsemen from Altai came, but the land beneath their hooves belonged to others. If the Turks are only 1/10, then who are the remaining 9/10? Waves of blood changed Anatolia for centuries. Haplogroup J1, about 7%, preserves the memory of Semitic tribes and caravan routes after the Arab conquests.
Attack now!
After the collapse of the Bronze Age around 1200 BC, the Phrygians and Lydians arrived from the Balkans. Then came the Persian Achaemenids, 550 BC, Alexander the Great and Hellenization, later Rome. Studies of ancient genomes in Anatolia showed Mosaicity. Cappadocians are closer to Caucasian and Zagros populations, while coastal residents are closer to Greeks. According to the latest scientific data, Byzantine Sagala's maternal lines are dominated by 27% H, 19% U, 11% T. The flames of bonfires, the caravans of slaves, the stormed fortresses. Empires erased names, but not blood. If everyone left their mark, where is the Turkic share? The Turkic system relied on tribe and oath. Alliances, khans, yurts, thus lived the Oghuz. But in Anatolia, they encountered cities, craftsmanship, and trade. And the ancient blood G2A, whose roots trace back to the Upper Paleolithic. According to studies, about 12 to 14% of modern Turks carry this Anatolian Caucasian line. Nomads became townsfolk, subjects of the Sultan. In 1299, the Ottoman Empire was born. By the 15th century, in Ottoman practice, Muslim often meant Turk, regardless of who you were before. After the Lausanne Treaty of 1923, this was legally established. They were divided by borders, but blood retained unity. If the Devshirme system took Christian boys, whose blood ran in the veins of the Ottoman elite, before Islam, Turks worshipped the sky. Tengri, the eternal blue, the spirit of the wind and destiny. But in 751, following the Battle of Talas, the faith of the Prophet entered the steppe. In the 10th century, the Karakhanids became the first Turkic Muslim state, and after Manzikert, in 71, Islam came to Anatolia, by sword and word. Even in the Byzantine Sagala, there is no influx from Central Asia. The population retained its local foundation. Among modern Turks, mitochondrial H is about 27%. Most are Muslims, predominantly Sunnis. But in their DNA, the voices of Christians, Greeks, and Armenians can be heard. Religion changed. Blood? Not. If faith transformed so quickly, what remained unchanged? The Turkic world relied for centuries on a code of honor. Loyalty to the kin. A word is worth more than life. A sword. An extension of will. But in Anatolia, these principles collided with another reality. Here, Byzantine latifundia, nobility and slavery reigned. The Ottomans inherited this system, creating a sultanate with validas, viziers, and harems. From the late 14th century, by 1395, the devshirme operated, a collection of Christian boys from the Balkans, the Caucasus, and Anatolia. They were converted to Islam, taught Arabic, Turkish, Persian, and turned into Janissaries, the elite of the army and support of the throne. According to archaeogenetic data, maternal lines H, U, and T predominated in Byzantine and Ottoman Anatolia. The line U, about 19%, traces back to ancient European hunter-gatherers. Studies confirm a significant Balkan-Caucasian contribution to the gene pool of Turks. Thousands of boys became warriors, viziers, rulers, but their blood was not Turkic. This story flips the notion of the Turkish elite. If the pinnacle of the empire consisted of descendants of Christians, who then are the Turks themselves, researchers are shocked. Traces of India have been found in Turkish DNA. The rare haplogroup L, common in India, Pakistan, and Iran, has been recorded among some carriers in Anatolia. Geneticists reported this in 2021. How did it get to Turkey? The version is simple and frightening: trade and slavery. The Ottoman Empire controlled caravan routes from India and East Africa. Slaves, concubines, soldiers. At the same time, studies in 2019 discussed the E1B lines in the Ottoman space, an Egyptian trace in the families of the Caucasian Circle. These are isolated cases, but they resonate loudly. Asia, Africa, and Europe met in one blood. 99% of people do not know this. If traces of India, Egypt, and Africa exist in Turkish DNA, what else do genes hide? Haplogroup T, about 11%, holds the memory of the Mediterranean, and the numbers speak louder than legends. According to studies, about 70 to 80% of matches in the distribution of genetic lines among Greeks and Turks are shared. Cypriot Greeks and Turks have roughly similar figures. Even Bulgarians and Turks share more than half of the male and 3/4 of the female lines. Scientists call this the effect of proximity. Centuries of exchanges, marriages, migrations. But there are also shadows. The book Grandchildren by Fethi Çetin and Ayşegül Altanay tells of thousands of hidden Armenians who do not know their origins. In 1915, the Armenian Genocide. In 1923, the Convention on the Exchange of Greek-Turkish Populations was signed. Some families were torn apart. Others were forced to forget language and faith. This truth has been suppressed for centuries. If Turks and Greeks are genetically almost one people, why have they fought for 1,000 years? The history of Anatolia is an eternal struggle for the same land. Hittites, Assyrians, Lydians, Persians, Macedonians, Romans. Everyone came and left their mark. The rare haplogroup C, found in 1 to 3% of Turks, preserves the memory of nomads, Mongols and Huns, who reached here through the steppes. At Chios, the Lydians, in ancient tradition, became a symbol of fabulous wealth. The Achaemenid Persians brought laws and roads, Alexander the Great, Greek speech, and Rome, stone arches and aqueducts. Archaeogenetics shows that the gene pool of the Romans 2,000 years ago was close to that of Anatolian. The land preserved people, not empires. Scientists call this the effect of stable land. Conquerors disappeared, but blood remained. Columns of temples, shadows of theaters, aqueducts over dusty roads, seals of vassals, and banners of governors. Empires changed, but the people endured. Borders were foreign, but the soul of the people was unbroken. If everyone left a mark, where are the pure Turks? The Seljuks came like the wind from the steppe, but the land remained Anatolian. Haplogroup O3M122, an East Asian marker, is found among Turks from 8.5 to 15.6%, reminding of their nomadic past. In the early 11th century, the Seljuks entered Anatolia. In 71, Byzantium lost, but there were few nomads. By 1300, no more than 500,000 against millions of locals. In early Oghuz and medieval steppe samples, the East Asian component ranged from 30 to 50%, while among modern Turks, only from 10 to 15. Assimilation conquered the sword. In 1299, Osman founded an empire, and in 1453, Mehmed II took Constantinople. Minarets, bazaars, palaces, but beneath them, Byzantine foundations. 600 years, 3 continents, and DNA remains Anatolian. If the Ottomans ruled for centuries, why did the blood not become steppe? The Ottoman Empire was not only a conquest, but also a mixture. The maternal haplogroup K, about 5.6%, connects Europe and the Near East. After the Battle of Kosovo in 1389, the Ottomans firmly entered the Balkans. Serbs, Bulgarians, Greeks, Albanians, all became part of the state. The Millet system operated. Christians paid taxes but lived by their laws. The Devshirme system. One offer: boys were taken and turned into Janissaries. A study in 2021, based on 3,362 Turkish genomes, showed that Turks are genetically closer to Southern European and Mediterranean samples. 4 components: European, Balkan, Caucasian, and Near Eastern. The Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1913 deprived Turkey of Europe, but not its blood. If the elite came from the Balkans, who are the real Turks? The 20th century became a century of blood. In the mitochondrial lines of Turks, markers D4C and G2A, about 8.13%, still retain traces of a Central Asian past. In 1915, the Armenian genocide occurred. About 1.5 million people were killed or deported. In 1923, the Convention on Population Exchange was signed, and resettlements continued until 1925. 1.5 million Greeks left Turkey, and about 500,000 Muslims moved from Greece. Anatolia became Turkish, not by blood, but by ideology. Mustafa Kemal Ataturk said, "A Turk is anyone who lives in Turkey and considers himself a Turk." Kurds, Circassians, Lazis, all were declared one people. Archaeogenetics shows that the Central Asian component in female lines reaches 22%, in male lines 13. Likely reasons are slavery, concubines, and marriages in the imperial era. Despite wars, genocides, and expulsions, this people maintained itself. But if millions were expelled, who remained? Haplogroup I, about 5%, a European line with a Balkan trace and echoes of Sardinia. In 1923, the Republic of Turkey is born. Ataturk: "We created Turkey, now let us create Turks." Latin script instead of Arabic script, European clothing, the ban on Sufi orders. A united nation under one flag. In 1927, 13.6 million people. Today, 85 million. According to the studies of 2021, the country is divided into 6 genetic subregions: Balkan, Western, Central, Northern, Southern, Eastern, a mosaic within a single name. They fight not only for land, but also for memory. Archives against slogans. If identity is created by law, What will remain when the law disappears? Modern genetics has revealed what palaces have kept silent. Representatives of the Osmanolu house, direct descendants of Ottoman sultans, publicly pointed out haplogroup R1A1Z93, typical for Altaians, Kyrgyz, and peoples of Central Asia. The conclusion is simple and bold. The dynasty is Central Asian by blood. But the people they ruled, Anatolian. The Central Asian component among modern Turks averages 10 to 15%, in some areas in Western Anatolia, up to 30. Scientists call this a dynastic rupture. Power and people walk different genetic paths, Topkapi, turbans, court ceremonies, while blood flows from Altai. If the dynasty is Altai and the people are Anatolian, who really ruled the empire? Despite wars and expulsions, they have preserved themselves. Conclusion: Turks are a synthesis. About 60% are descendants of Neolithic Anatolian farmers with haplogroups G2 and J2. About 25% are Indo-European lines R1A and R1B. From 10 to 15% are Central Asian Turks with haplogroups Q, N, and C. And about 5% are rare traces LI and E1B1B. According to the work of Kielinch and colleagues, published in 2021, based on the analysis of several thousand genomes, Turkey is a genetic bridge between Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Comparison shows, among Greeks and Turks, there are about 74.5% matches in distributions, with Armenians, even closer than with Azerbaijanis, while Southern Italians turn out to be relatives. 85 million people, 99% Muslims. But genes remember millennia before Islam. Minarets and mountains, the Bosphorus between worlds. And in the veins flows the blood of both continents. Turks are dozens of peoples under one name. And that is something to be proud of.